Next tonight, a police sergeant has told us how he was stabbed and seriously injured by a man that he'd stopped in Nottingham. Dan Griffin has been speaking as forces across our region begin a week-long campaign against knife crime. Official figures show they're dealing with dozens of stabbings and knife-point robberies every single week. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball reports.
The knives come in around here and you can actually feel how kind of tough
that's really tough, isn't it?
Material is.
Dan says this body armour saved his life.
And the knife is kind of coming in at an angle.
It's just over a year since he was stabbed by a suspect in Nottingham city centre.
The knife has gone through on the right side of my leg.
Dan's attacker's now serving a 5-year prison sentence for a stabbing the judge described as ferocious and unprovoked.
The impact was physical, psychological, emotional for the family as well. They've seen the scars. I've been through some dark times, and the impact or the ripple effect that it's actually had on my family, my friends, it goes deeper than the actual person that is actually involved.
Dan was attacked close to the scene of this fatal stabbing. Kini Kisingu Mabiala was a young musician. The murder weapon was caught on this bus CCTV camera. Another life lost to a crime that's far too common.
Everyone's like always on smoke in these areas. Like it's just unnecessary. You know what I'm feeling? Like everyone should just like take a chill pill.
Do you know anybody who's been stabbed?
I do, yes. Yeah, it was my family friend. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago. Passed away.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been stabbed, but obviously no comment in it. You get me? I'm not saying no names.
I think it's massive. Yeah, I think it's pretty massive situation at the moment.
I mean, do you know people who've been stabbed?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Sure. Loads of people.
Yeah,
loads of people.
It's a big problem, yeah.
So today, police forces across the East Midlands began a week-long campaign against knife crime. And here at Alveston Park in Derby, they've been searching for hidden or discarded weapons.
If they see police officers, they'll try and discard that knife. So if they're in an area where they can remember where they've put it, or even just get rid of it so they don't get caught with it, they'll just tend to throw them places or hide them in bushes, hide them up, in a tree, anything like that. Previous times we found knives. One of our colleagues has found ammunition before, so it's not just knives that we find. But yes, we're in certain areas of Derby, we have took knives off the street and found them in hidden locations.
I'm using this campaign to appeal to those people, those peer groups. If you're not comfortable actually phoning up and phoning the police, phone Crime Stoppers. It's free, it's completely anonymous. And also to friends and family, loved ones, dissuade that person not to carry that knife because it has a massive knock-on effect.
Now, after 4 months of duty, Dan's back on patrol and hoping that telling his own story could help save lives.
Well, Jeremy's here with me in the studio now. Jeremy, who were the victims? Is it aimed at anyone in particular?
Well, we know, Anne, that knife attacks are very rarely random. It can be about domestic violence, it can be about drug feuds. You'll sometimes hear teenagers talking about rival areas and carrying knives for protection. That is a real worry because often they become the victims of knife attacks, and that's why that sort of casual approach to carrying knives is such a big part of this week's police campaign.
How common, then, are serious knife crimes?
Well, we've just had last year's official crime figures for the 5 East Midlands forces. Now, they recorded over 1,000 knife-point robberies. That's almost 3 every day. There were over 1,700 injuries in knife attacks. That's around 5 stabbings a day. And tragically, 13 victims lost their lives during 2022. 5 of those victims were in Nottinghamshire.
I mean, these figures seem really quite high. Is it true that knife crime's getting worse?
The official figures have been rising very sharply for several years. There are some encouraging signs, though. There have been slightly fewer serious knife offences recorded since a peak just before the pandemic. And also, here in the East Midlands, you're far less likely to be a victim of knife crime than in a number of cities like London. Those figures, though, also show that more people across this region were found carrying knives last year. Now, I think there's a big question there. Does it mean more weapons or does it mean better searches? The answer could well be a bit of both.
Yeah.